they have to come up to a higher standard than just you're going to be my mate, live next to me, I have your last name, you're gonna help me pay some bills, we're gonna be in love and all this other stuff. I need you to help me fight in the natural, but I also need you to help me fight in the spirit. And I can't really think that we can do that successfully if we can't even get through it on the natural side. Good evening and welcome to season two of the Purpose and Powerful podcast. I'm your host, Erica Lester, along with my esteemed co-host.
Real Jabril Wilson, how's it going?
It's doing well, it's going very well. Welcome to episode 29 live.
Mm.
And tonight, our topic, Equalizing the Yoke, the impact of faith in dating, is our episode 29. And what are we talking about exactly? We're talking about how do you infuse faith with love, intimacy, and relationship and have success in the process. So, we're here to give you insight, we're here to give you tips, how to balance faith and romance, pleasing God, and the relationship. So, Dr. Jabril, did you have any questions you wanted to start out with? Being myself, being a single lady, still out here wanting to be found by not so much Boaz, because I never look at it like that, but by the mate that God has for me. Obviously, I have some experience and some things that have happened along my journey, divorcee and all of that. But now I'm endeavoring to set the record straight and to do it right.
All right, well cool. I do have a few questions for you for all the single ladies and men. Maybe these questions and answers can help you on your journey to finding that right soulmate. Well, first, I want to just ask you straight up, are you hiding? And when I say that, I just really want to ask you that because I don't know if you were ready for that question. Are you hiding? And what I mean by hiding, it's not just for you, it's for other people. Are you so busy or so involved with your agenda and the things that you want to do today that you may not be available as you may think you are to bring that person to find you? So I just want to ask you.
Very excellent question. I don't look at it as hiding, not the way I did before. So I would say now my level of responsibilities, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, having staff, so many other things, but not just in the business arena, right?
Right.
Still trying to figure out and find out, and we're always finding out who we are. I'm not as available so that when I am available during travel, I make myself intentionally available. So, what do I mean by that, ladies? Here's the thing. So, recently, in some of my recent travels, I know I'm coming from work or whatever have you, trying to go through the airports. So normally that for me would be okay. I'm going to change my clothes, get in jeans, get in a t-shirt, get in tennis shoes. I'm running through the airport, got my laptop backpack, just trying to have everything together. Don't need a man to help me with my suitcase. Those things was like, okay, well, it's not making myself appear as approachable if said man was looking out for me unexpectedly. I know that the Bible said is, and I learned recently too, he that finds a wife finds a good thing. But here's the thing, men are not actively looking for wives. So they notice you by happenstance, like, oh, okay, look at that sister, whatever. But you don't necessarily have to have provocative dress or anything like that, but you do have to make yourself noticeable by the man. So now I look at it a little bit differently and saying, okay, I don't really know where he's at, and not that I'm concerned or worried about him, but if I'm going to be found by him, he will notice me by the way that I carry myself. And although I don't have to dress to the nines, and I'm definitely not going to do jeans, t-shirts, and sweatshirts, I could just be chilling at Delta Lounge or whatever have you. But to set myself apart from, say, the next woman, I have to at least appear to be as attractive or approachable, right? To said man to begin with. So that's how I've had to kind of change it up, not be so deep spiritually, not be so profound in my singleness, but to say, hey, I know that I'm attractive, but am I attracting a mate?
Right. There you go. And I think that's great. That was the key word that I was looking for was approachable. A lot of women could be attractive but not be approachable. So now you become intimidated. and you wonder why people are going to other people when you clearly may have all the credentials and bells and whistles that a man is looking for. But if you don't look, if you look untouchable, and I'm not saying you, but I'm saying that some women do that and they have this armor over it. So I want to know from you how is important for you to find the partner who shares your faith and why.
Oh, another excellent question. You're bringing the zingers tonight. It's extremely important now that I have become a minister, whereas
Right.
before it was high, the priority was really high. But my mentor, my South African ministry mentor, said this to me earlier this year. Is like, God is not going to put you with any man. He has to place the man that not only covers and protects you, but protects the call on your life as well. So the
Mm,
man has to understand the call, not just look at me as Erica, the person, but Erica, the woman of God, and obviously, too, Erica, the minister of God as well. So that just brought in another extra layer of complexity. You know, I know that just in general, women that are successful are intimidating to men. But now you say, oh, well, the Lord has called me to the ministry now. Whereas the brother didn't have a defined, profound faith
mm,
and relationship with God. Now he has to have that. It's like minimum requirement now. And not to say that he wouldn't be a great mate. It's just that level, another level of separation, another barrier to entry. And I like this barrier of entry. It's a protection like no other, but it did make that pool being a little bit smaller or a little bit more defined. But I've come to appreciate it because it helps set my expectations of a man in a different way as well. So now I couldn't compromise on, does he have religion? Does he have faith? Does he have a relationship? Does it
right.
worship life? Does it prayer life? Fasting life? It's just meant that there are a few more questions to ask and to really say, you know what? If the man doesn't
That just look how I
have
really
this
thought.
defined
Yeah,
faith,
it does.
he's obviously not the man for me. And if he's still trying to find himself
It just look like
in
a hot mess on
how does he feel about faith, right?
it. Just
Not
hot.
that he's going to church every Sunday and he's tuning into the word every Sunday. Not the trademark traditional stuff, but like to really know that in order to cover and protect me, we have to be really equally yoked in that arena.
Be the co-host. I would definitely.
Thomas, good evening.
That works.
What's
Good
good?
afternoon.
Awesome.
Good, we can't
Good
see you, but
evening.
we appreciate you being on.
What's going on?
There you go.
Let's just join in and hear the conversation. You came in a little bit afterwards, but we were rolling, and we're happy to see you. As welcome back as the opening of season two. And I had another question for Erica. I had, what are the challenges that you face trying to determine the depth and sincerity of your potential partner's faith?
Say it again. Let me make sure I understand the question
Sure, sure.
correctly.
Yeah, that's I'm saying the same thing.
Oh, so Thomas heard. I'll say it again. What challenges, Erica, have you faced in trying to determine the depth and sincerity of a potential partner's faith?
Interesting question. So, just recently, I mentioned to you that there was someone who thought that they were interested in me, and I mentioned, I'm not coming out the gate and saying, "Hey, I'm a minister. Hey, I believe this. Hey, I mean, I'm always bringing God along for the ride and asking questions and doing different things to kind of pique interest or find out different levels, and so I could tell that, you know, church attendance is not his thing.
Mm,
But he did say that he believed and he prays and all those things. And he also mentioned he's never been married before. So he said he really was waiting for the right person that he would want to crown with wife. And I thought that was interesting. But I started asking a few more questions. I mentioned faith is really important to me. And I asked him, I said, hey, how do you feel about um, praying together,
Mm.
worshiping together, and, getting in the scriptures together? We just had a slight conversation on politics and things like that. And he says, well, I just believe that, God isn't in politics and he has nothing to do with that and all those things. And I'm like, I can understand what you're saying, but I had to just come a little further. I had to ask a few more questions. And so then I said to
Uh,
him, well, I understand that. So let me ask you this. I told him about my initial sermon, told him what it was on, how it fit the politics mode. And so I said, well, you have a daughter. So let's say the government's agenda infringes on the faith you say you have. How do you feel about that if you say you follow God and you don't worry about politics?
Mm.
Well, I just need to do this in my house. I was like, that's where it's a problem. I said, see how here's a disconnect is that you say God is not in politics, but God said that we're supposed to have him in every area of our life. So if you're not the representative in that particular arena, now they're pushing things that are anti your faith because your faith isn't represented there. So how do you make the separation? How do you make the divide? See, now I'm challenging not so much as faith, but this is a relationship now. Because if you're saying you have a relationship with me, and I'm saying I'm going to allow you to cover, protect, and keep me in faith and in the natural, how are you going to do that effectively if you and I can't navigate that particular conversation together? Forget the demons and the devils and everybody else that doesn't believe in the people we need to witness to and bring into the fold. You and I can't navigate this relationship. So am I going to be sitting there in front of my man of God or even his man of God in the pastoral capacity and saying, I present this person for fellowship and relationship, and I want your blessing on this union.
so okay,
I'm gonna do that
I, I,
because I
I,
know
I,
I would know
I'm gonna
one what
bite.
my God requires, and then I would
So,
know what my pastor requires. And I'm
so,
saying for my spiritual father, before we even get there, I'm going to present my natural father to this man, to my natural father. Then I'm going to present him to my spiritual father. Now I'm also going to present him before God. But I already know that me and him have a problem on the God side. So now I'm going to go to the other rungs of the ladder to bring this man. I think I better know that this man, just like I have always in dating, I'll tell you this, and I'll let Thomas have it because he needs to jump in a bit as a minister, as a friend, and other. I have never introduced a man to my father I didn't think was husband material.
Unless he was a friend.
No, if he wasn't husband material, meaning when I date somebody, before I even enter into the dating world, I always say to myself, if this man is all he is, right where he's presented to me, if I could marry him and if he got no better and he got no worse, could I deal with this? If I can't answer that question, there's no need for him to introduce friends, family, and certainly not my natural father before I say, here is my pastor and here is God Almighty in my life.
Okay,
And I
makes
just said, even in that conversation, see what it's done for me. Having faith as a requirement has helped me evaluate the things that I would normally have done as somebody that was younger, who faith wasn't that much of a priority, to say they had to come up to a higher standard than just you're going to be my mate, live next to me, I have your last name, you're gonna help me pay some bills, we're gonna be in love and all this other stuff. I need you to help me fight in the natural, but I also need you to help me fight in the spirit. And I can't really think that we can do that successfully if we can't even get through it on the natural side.
okay, you putting a whole lot
I
in,
know, but
and
that's
so,
where I found myself from where I was to where I am now, and why it's such a protocol to actually check off on so much higher responsibility than it did before. I could
so,
be the late person going to church on Sunday and hitting that thing, whatever, and we show up or not, and I pay my tithes and offering, and that's cool. But this has to be my witness partner.
so now I agree. Don't bring nothing home you don't want to think about marriage. I got that. 100%. 100% with you. I did the same thing. Only people I brought home was ones I looked at and said potential partner so I can get a blessing. Or at one point just to see what they think. So I got that. That's 100%. Okay. Equally yoked. Equally yoked. Spiritually equally yoked is something that's going to, it can happen. Um, the challenge becomes where are you going to go with that? And what do I mean by that? If I have a man, if I'm a brother and I believe in God and I have those moral features, that moral standards, if that's my principles for living, but at the same point, I'm not a minister. You're a minister. Are we equally yoked? That depends upon his definition of what his calling is. His calling might not be ministry. So his calling might be ushering. His calling might be a deacon. His calling might not even be something of a leadership position. It might be a servitude position. But if he's walking fully into his what God has for him, it might be mission work. But if he's walking fully inside of what God and he's trusting God for everything, then that is 100%. That person is equally yoked, but you're just not equally you're not in the same gifting area. So you minister, he serves.
I
There's
like
no
that.
issue with that as long as he's focused and God is his anchor. So
Yes.
now here's the challenge that I this has become a question mark, because you tied politics into his spirituality.
Not
And
politics. I
yes,
want to know
well,
where
you
he
did.
stood
You said
on.
politics.
We
You
had a
said,
conversation on politics.
but
I needed to know how he was going to fight
but
a
the
shifting of
challenge
government
becomes,
and
but
how
the
he was going to
challenge
stand on
becomes,
it.
what is worldview?
Worldview?
What is worldview? What's the definition of worldview?
I don't know the literal definition, but from my perspective, worldview is taking in information for what's happening in the world around you.
Okay, Jabril, you have any comment on that?
I know.
Okay, he said, no, I ain't gonna even dive into that one. Okay,
Mhm.
so worldview is what your eyes have seen, your ears have heard, your heart has received, and your spirit has conceived. So everybody's worldview is different.
Yes.
So what you have seen and what you're gonna react to, how you're gonna react, how you're gonna vote, all of that stuff is based upon your worldview. How you see the world through your history, through your past, through your present, and through your future. So God determines our future. It's already known. God has authored our past. God is taking us through our present. What his past has built him to be, what his present is, if you're in his present, what his future is going to be based on where he and you are looking at God and where you are having God to interrelate into it. So his political view, because you went through, so I kind of got
But he didn't
lost.
get axed. Yeah, he didn't get axed because of his political view. He got
But
axed because of his spiritual one.
right, and so if he's following God, his political view is going to be based upon his worldview and where God is leading him and where God is taking him. Everybody's is different. So
I love you. I love you so much because he wasn't following God. So that's why he got axed. It wasn't about his politics.
right, and so that's the challenge that we have. We have to make the first things, because
Yes.
um, now, did I feel that my wife was 100% into where I was spiritually? No,
Mhm.
I did not. Did she think I was where she was spiritually? No, she did not. Because that's something that we find as we grow our relationship. Now, you ain't got to get married to grow that. You can grow that outside. But the first part, just like you said, is that person going to church? Is that person sitting under a pastor or a minister or someone that you can actually understand what that person is actually hearing? What is he eating? What is he feeding on? If he's feeding on TD Jakes every Sunday, that's not a fellowship.
Right.
That's a followership.
That's right.
Then a followership versus a fellowship is totally different. Because you can follow anybody, but who you fellowship with, birds of a feather, flock together. And so, what you are looking, so the challenge that we have, number one, did God bring them to you?
No. I
If
mean,
God didn't bring them to
God
you, then
allowed
you
him to come to
already,
me. I agree. God allowed him to come to me, but I feel that was
Talking
more of a
about-
test than anything else.
Are we talking about this gentleman that Erica just met?
no, I'm talking about anybody in general.
Just in general, he's talking about in general.
Okay.
Just, because
Because,
your question was, how do you determine, right?
I got one more question for you before we
Oh,
finish.
okay.
okay,
Well,
but
put a pin in it for just a second, Thomas. Let's get
May have to
Jabril's
just
next question. Maybe that'll help shape us under the different direction. I know you
okay,
have some questions also, Thomas.
we
So I
may
don't
have
want to
to do part two. We
want to
may
get
have,
too far on that.
uh, we may have a part two. Well, I asked one more than Thomas before we conclude, but the other question I had was, how do you, Erica, balance your desire for a romantic relationship with commitment to celibacy or abstinence until marriage? Ugh.
Ooh, interesting question. Right now, I'm balancing in that I'm having to determine my timing in it, and then sift and sit through, um, continue to refine what God wants for me to have in a mate versus what Erica wants in a mate.
Well, let me ask you. Thanks. How important are physical to you?
The physicality of a man.
Absolutely. To look at him, and like you
Uh,
said, could he if he didn't look any better or any worse or something you said,
oh,
you
if he wasn't like traits, like if he like his makeup, like how he treated me, how we
no, I
corresponded
got that. I'm
together,
talking about a
those
face.
things.
I'm talking about a physical.
Yeah. Well, physical appearance, I think it's not as high. Like I've dated sevens or eights or whatever like that. So it's not that. With women, we always notice those who's noticing us. That's the first thing. And a lot of times women are attracted to the man that gives them the most attention. It's not necessarily the man that they dreamed about.
Really,
Yes.
over time,
Like if all women did inventory, they fell in love or in like with the person who gave the most attention because the guy that they really want isn't always the guy that they end up with.
mm, interesting. Yeah,
So
that
I
time.
learned to not pay attention so much about that. I know that was a bar that was a negative from a woman to a man, but I learned to pay attention to how that man treats me and can he determine what love for me looks like. And it didn't have anything to do with the physical attributes, honestly.
I love that. That sounds like a mature
Right.
transition.
Yes.
I don't know if
So like
20.
even men that okay, so Mr. Atlanta, he wasn't high, he would not be if I was sitting in my mind, guys that I would like, oh, he's fine. He was not that guy though, but the other things about him were so attractive, it made him more attractive.
Okay. Okay.
So then I'm like, "Oh, he's not bad looking at all." You start rating it differently. Okay. Well, you might say, oh, okay, he's a strong seven or somebody. Like when you're trying to, for women, it's like, okay, well, I need to show a picture of this man to my girlfriend or whatever, right? The women don't want to hear about, oh, he's such a nice guy. He's so sweet. They want to say, girl, what does he look like? Can I see a picture?
Of course.
So you want to feel proud to show this man off. So at least he needs to look good to you. Otherwise, you're gonna do a whole bunch of explaining because they're like, well, girl,
Right before you even send the picture. But I
you
would
know,
But I would say I feel that you're absolutely right because the guy who's so attractive and not available will be the same guy that you bother your girlfriends about because you're alone and he's nowhere to be found. So I believe that he will not become attractive. She won't be saying, "Girl, you better just chase that fine man down because even though he's not calling you back and he's ghosted you for 7 days, let's go find him." They're not going to say that. He's going to look very ugly to him. And I've seen this. So I think initially the eye at the beginning it always looks good, but let's be clear, in 70 or 80 years from now, everybody almost look the same. So you gotta really think about it.
And so I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say it like this: the ugly baby syndrome.
Other baby syndrome? Oh
Ugly baby
no.
syndrome. What is that? What I mean by that is everybody can say that baby ugly, but the parents are not. The parents are gonna say that is the most beautiful baby I ever seen in my life, because they're not looking at the outward features. They see the future in that person, in that baby, and they see what that baby can become. But the challenge that we have as people is that beauty is only skin deep. You can have a picture. You know, that's the problem with all of this stuff that you do. What do you call this? Computer dating, all this junk. They put a picture from 10 years ago, and
Catfishing
you
it.
get to see them. You're like, oh my God, what in the world? But
It's
then it's the same way that we do when we are putting our face up front in other people. How many people put their face? How many people put their current picture on their cards?
well, that's why I
Not
mean,
as many.
but see, let me
No,
just
because they're
say,
going to put one from 5, 10 years ago when they're 5, 10 pounds lighter, and they are looking a little bit higher. They're going to make sure everything is just right dress. But the challenge that we have is that we have to start looking at the heart. We have to start looking at them from a spiritual point of view. And that is, the earlier we do it, the better, because that's how people get that spiritual connection. It was like, I loved her from the first sight. Maybe not, but I love her after I had a couple of dates. My wife and I, you know, we were like, I ain't married that joker. I ain't married that joker. But she said that after this first time she saw me, she was like, that's my husband. She started talking after a couple of times. We had dated. She said she was actually trying to not call me her husband. But I was sitting there saying, nah, we ain't doing this. But as we grew and as I knew her spiritually, I knew that this was the person that God had for me. And that is where we have to understand who brought us together, how we came together, and what was the not really what the consequences, but it does. I mean, if I met a person in a club, we got a long way to go before we start talking about hooking up, because I met you in the wrong place to start looking for a spouse for me. And that's the challenge that we have to do is understand the power where God leads us, because God didn't lead me in a club. I'm sorry. That's flesh. That's straight flesh.
Well,
Did God lead me to a carnival, or to a party, that don't have drinking and a bunch of Christians there? Maybe. But, we just have to understand all of those things. But then we allow the spirit you try the spirit by the spirit. If the spirits don't match, then you leave it alone. You walk away. But that takes time. That takes an investment. That's and sometimes putting your cards on the table and saying, look, this is what I'm looking for. If you're not there, or don't think you're going to be there, then let's move on. And you've done that, Erica. You told me, man, that this dude came up on me. I told him he better find him something safe to do, because it ain't with me.
mm,
I'm just saying. But those are the challenges that we have. Is that even? But now here's the other part of that. Once we get married, that same thing has to happen. That same challenge, that same freshness, that same power that we had, that same spiritual goal, and we can't let it slip, because life happens, and life will pull you toward God, or life will pull you to away from God. And the challenge that we have is ensuring that we still are spiritually growing, and that we are still staying connected to who? To God, because God first. He said, let no man put asunder. That means that let no man come and separate you. You can separate you, and you can put somebody else in there. But God is not going to separate you. God is going to keep you together. But man can separate themselves from God.
mm,
absolutely. Hey, you dropped the whole bar. But We definitely will have to do part two. So as we wrap up today's conversation on equalizing the yoke, it's very clear that faith isn't just a checkbox in our daily lives, it's a foundation. You
Mm,
notice how I started saying how before I became a minister, what it meant for me to have somebody that had the same faith, but then that just skyrocketed and became a more elevated and pronounced requirement. The same will be for you because as you're on your journey, even though it's not easy to stay true to your beliefs, those same beliefs will help guide you toward a love that is both grounded and fulfilling, and one that you can trust on the path to keep the faith. And remember, as long as God is in it, it will be worth it. What are
But
your closing statement or your closing words that you'd have for us, Jabril, tonight?
sure. I just would say keep the faith and stay patient. I think the enemy of faith is patient. I mean, no, I didn't mean it like that. What I'm saying is that you gotta have that faith. Faith will test your patience. So that's what I really meant to say. That you have to have true faith is going to test your patience. So you could say you have all this faith, but a lot of us still want something right now, and we're not ready for it. So continue, Erica, and a lot of ladies, keep your faith, be patient. That mate will find you, but make and when he finds you, you want to be ready. You don't want to be the person who's not ready in the relationship. That's really my what I'm really feeling on my heart to say because we do a lot of the requirements and the checklist, but we're not really getting ready. We're spending more time. That's right.
So true.
Appreciate that, Thomas.
Very true. Thomas, your closing thoughts, words for the attendees and
you know,
listeners.
the Bible tells us is that trust in God with all thy heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. The most critical relationship beside life with yourself that you have is that with your mate. Secondly, after your relationship, maybe after your relationship with God. Because once you give your life to a person, then your life is not your own. Your life is God's, your spouse's, and then yours. Because all three make up the triangle, and God is in the center. And the challenge that we have is as we look at this, never let go of your faith or let your faith waver because of another person. Because that person is here today and they can be gone tomorrow. But God never changes. If he's the forefront, then everything else will work itself out.
Mhm.
I got 30 years right here on my side to set it. Through thick and thin, through hell and high water. We've been through it. And she's still looking at me saying she loved me. And I'm still looking at her with these bright eyes, looking at her and saying, I love you, baby. And every morning, even though I done got fatter and uglier, she still sits over here and smiles when I walk in the room. So I'm good. And I know I'm excited. My heart jumps when I look at her. So that's what God does because I know God put me there. And we're in it to win it.
Mhm.
And we're rooting for you all the way. So join us in our bi-weekly episode. Remember, we've switched to a bi-weekly format. So our next live episode, episode 30 in our season 2, will be Sunday, November 24th at 6 p.m. Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, with our podcast episode topic, Deceit or Deception, the lies that destroy us.
Mm.
We look forward to hearing your feedback. Like, share, subscribe to our podcast on Amazon, Apple Podcasts, on our website, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We love to hear from you. Final words from our co-host, Jabril?
Yeah, that's all we have. I had
Mm.
remarks before, but if I would just say we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks and enjoy this wonderful month, the month of Thanksgiving. And just remember to tell somebody that you love them immediately. If you're thinking about it, tell them immediately because tomorrow's not promised to any of us. So I just want to say that. And I just want to say I love you both and have a
Thank you.
Hey, no, you can
Me
do it, buddy.
too.
Love you too.
Very insightful words. Have a great night, everyone.
you.
Amen.
And we'll talk with you soon.